We're just taking a walk north on Fifth Avenue, just so that everyone has a chance to see what Fifth Avenue looks like on a busy summer day. This is a Sunday, and it's in August, towards the end of August, and you can see how beautiful it is and how nice everything is around here. And this is one of the very crowded streets of New York, especially in the summertime, and this is where a lot of tourists like to come. Now, the big store that we're seeing on our right-hand side as we're going north is Saks Fifth Avenue. That's one of those large department stores in New York, like Harrods or like Sofert's in London. And many people really love to shop there. It's similar to Macy's and some of the other big shops in America. And then also what you have on our left-hand side, we're walking right past Rockefeller Center. That's where you can see everything under construction right now. But it's great. Like this is where people love to come. So this is like one of the few places in the world that's very well known. This is where on a Sunday you'll hear many languages spoken, because everyone seems to want just to visit Fifth Avenue at least one time, just to see what it's like. And it's very convenient when you're around here, because there are so many things to see. But keep your credit cards at home, because on this street things could get really expensive and you're better off shopping elsewhere. But some people actually prefer to buy something here because it's something different, you know, and this way they could say, look, they bought something on Fifth Avenue, they could be in their own home city, and then it still works out for them. And this building on our left-hand side, this is Rockefeller Center, and this is some of the most expensive real estate in the country, and also to rent there, it's very expensive. Now, the church that we're seeing on our right is St. Patrick's Cathedral. That's the Catholic cathedral in New York. That's where the Archbishop lives also. And it's very popular in New York as a tourist site. Many people just love to go in there. It actually has no parish, so there's no group of people that belong to it, because it is the cathedral, and that's just the way they wanted to organize it, because it's like so central to New York. And here, this is Rockefeller Center. You know, just as we're walking north, you can see all the beautiful buildings. Now, we passed part of it before, you know, so we're just going north. And we started our trip on 49th Street, so we're just walking a little bit north. This tall building that we see here, that's the Olympic Tower. That's where Aristotle Onassis, a Greek billionaire, used to live. It's where a lot of other very wealthy people, even today, still live. And it's because it's so centrally located, security is very high. It's a very prestigious address, so a lot of people really like being there. So, and then here you have other buildings. That's the Palace Hotel. That's actually on land owned by the Catholic Church and leased to a company that's in Indonesia. And they have rent changes every year for the land lease. But that's a very popular thing in New York, to have a land lease. This way, no one has to worry about maintaining the land. No one has to worry about, the person that owns the land doesn't have to worry about maintaining the land. They just get a fixed income from the land based on a formula. And here, this is Atlas holding up the world. This is again in Rockefeller Center. So you can see how nice it is that it's like that. And then we're just continuing on north, and then you can see how many tourists there are. People just love it here. And again, this is St. Patrick's Cathedral that we're passing by.
Why not go to this shit? This shit don't go the way I need to go.
The H&M store. This is a building that's owned by Vornado, and a number of years ago Vornado added this top portion here to make it a little bit more modern, to add some more space, because it allows them to rent it for more. And there is the Versace store. Now, Versace actually bought that location and ended up renovating that. Now, he bought it, and then unfortunately, before they were able to open up the store, Versace passed away in Miami. And you can see the famous Cartier store over there on the side. it's great to have like a store like that. So a lot of people really enjoy something like that because it allows them to purchase some good things. And the building in the distance that's towering above all the other buildings is the Trump Tower. That was what made Trump famous. Trump actually has 3 entire floors there reserved for himself that is his own house. And he really enjoys it there. But I don't think he spends that much time there because I think what happens is he's so busy traveling, so busy doing other business deals, that it's kind of like a little place for him to rest for a moment until he goes off to the next place to go to. And as I said, all I'm doing here is we're just taking a short walk down Fifth Avenue to show everyone what it's like to be on Fifth Avenue on a summer day as a tourist. You can see how everything is here. And we're gonna go past a well-known store in New York, Hollister, on Fifth Avenue. And that's owned by the Limited, along with Abercrombie and Fitch, which is also owned by the Limited. And there are big revenue generating stores. They're so popular that people have to actually wait in line to go into these stores. And you can see some of the people waiting in line to go into Hollister now. And that's primarily because in New York, they have building codes that only allow a certain number of people in a certain space at one time. And so because Fifth Avenue is a touristic location, there's only a certain number of people that can fit into one store at one time. This is an example of like how it's very popular. You can see this here. All these people waiting in line to get into the Hollister store. But that's normal. And this is the famous Rolex building. And that's very expensive location also. That building there is 520 Madison Avenue. That is a very interesting building. The Mitsubishi Corporation is in there. Also the Carlyle Group and a number of other big corporations. Very prestigious to be in there. Very high security. Very nice to be in there too. And you can see from all the stores that are along Fifth Avenue here, Fendi, Stuart Weitzman, it's a very nice address to be in. And many people prefer to be here. St. Thomas Church, just so you can see. This is around 53rd and 5th Avenue, so that you know exactly where we are. And the blocks in Midtown, in Manhattan, are not as long as in some other places. And but that's normal because, like, when they designed it, they wanted the blocks to be a little bit shorter. You can see here how they have some of these other stores that are around here. Like this is a Takashimaya store, a Japanese store that they built that. Then they ended up selling it off to someone else just because they realized that it was a better fit with someone else. And this here is the University Club, private club in New York. The private clubs aren't as popular as they used to be. Like the who's who of New York likes to be members of this, but that's usually the older set. A lot of the younger people choose not to be member of the private clubs because they can be with each other without paying a membership fee. And besides, these days in New York, a lot of people don't really do things in the private clubs. It's not like it was 80 years ago or 100 years ago. It's more of an egalitarian way of looking at things these days, in New York at least, and in other parts of the United States. So now we're at about 55th and 5th Avenue. You can see all the beautiful stores that are here. Just taking our time as we walk down the street. Again, that's just to give everyone a chance to see what the city looks like. And in the distance, you can see a building that has a copper top. That actually has a very interesting background to it. A person ended up buying that top floor, the top 3 floors. Beautiful penthouse. However, every month you have to pay about $300,000. And so that's about maintenance of about $3.6 million a year. So it gets very expensive, but the woman who used to own it was married to a very wealthy man from Australia. He passed away, so then she inherited that, and then she decided it really wasn't for her. And there's a lot of these places in New York that are very nice to be in, but are also very expensive. Now here's an example of something unique in New York. You can see these 4 townhomes here, and they're actually not townhomes. They're associated with a much bigger building that's at the top. Now, when the city of New York allowed them to build that bigger building, one of the stipulations they had was that they had to keep these four buildings the same architecturally. So really, even though there are stores on the ground floor and maybe the second floor, like Henry Bendel and some of the other stores like Harry Winston, on the inside, on the top, on the more senior level, on the more top levels, they're hollowed out and they're part of a much larger building. You can see here how they did this with Henry Bendel. You know how they have a bigger store inside, even though it looks like it's one store on the outside. You can see here how inside they have like other stores within it. And that's the famous Harry Winston Jewelers. You know, inexpensive ring at some other shop might be a lot more expensive at Harry Winston, but people buy it because they like Harry Winston. And here we're going by the store of Abercrombie and Fish. That's owned by the Limited. Very nice to go there, and it's a beautiful store to be in. However, as I said before, there's only a limited amount of space in the different buildings. So they're not able to have an unlimited amount of people inside the buildings. So that's why you see the line, and also it's a Sunday. So a lot of people want to visit it, but there's only a certain amount of space. This is the Armani Fifth Avenue store, and they actually have a restaurant in that building. It's really a nice restaurant. People end up getting a coffee or a drink there. And that's the Trump Tower. We saw it from the distance. This is a closer look at the Trump Tower. Beautiful on the inside. Trump makes a very big deal about maintaining the quality of the store. Just because his name is on it, he also, as I said earlier, lives there, and then he has 3 entire floors just for himself. So that makes it very nice for him to be there. Again, this is the entryway for the Armani store. You can see all the people waiting to get in. And of course, as you know, as I mentioned, they are limited on how many people they let in. Now we're approaching 57th and 5th Avenue, and this is like one of the prime real estate areas in the entire world. Now on the ground floor, the stores are paying about over $1,000 a square foot. So that's $1,000 per square foot per year. So if you have a store that has 1,000 square feet, you're paying $1 million a year just to be there. Now this is the Tiffany store. Of course, everyone has heard of Tiffany. So Tiffany, I believe, owns that building. So, but for the other buildings and for the other stores, usually it's not just 1,000 square feet or like 100 square meters. It's usually stores of like 3,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet. And so that means that people are spending $2-3 million a year just to have a store, you know, on 57th and 5th Avenue. And you can see all the architecturally interesting buildings that are around here. And people, the different companies have spent a lot of money renovating these buildings just to make them look nice. Because these are their flagship stores, like with Louis Vuitton, part of Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy. And you can see, as I said, this is the building up there is the Sherry Netherland, very well known. It's just a few blocks away from the Pierre Hotel, which is owned by the Raj Hotel Group. So now we're going to be crossing 57th and 5th Avenue to take a better look at some of the other buildings. You can see here, looking west. Now, this store here is Bergdorf Goodman's. You might buy a tie in some store for $100. Here, they'll charge $200. And everyone knows they're very expensive, but people actually choose to shop at Bergdorf Goodman because of the quality of the goods. And this is a Bergdorf Goodman's men's store. And now we're very close. We're about 1 block away from Central Park, but still, it's a big area for tourists to come. Now, what we're seeing in front of us is the Apple Store. That's the world famous Apple Store that is generating a lot of money. And in 2008, a big real estate developer named Harry Macklow ended up buying this building, the GM building. And then he realized that there was all this extra space that was just as like a terrace space in front of the building. And then he ended up leasing it out to the Apple Store, and they ended up creating a beautiful store. And it's just beautiful on the inside. Opened 24 hours a day, very crowded, one of the highest revenue generating stores for Apple. But, and I'm sure they're spending a lot of money. This building, the GM building, is a very expensive building to be in. But I think for a lot of people it's worth it. What ends up happening is the people who are in that building, companies that are in that building, generate a lot of revenue. So for them, it's worthwhile being in that building. We're just going to take a look south to see where we came from. And this is the area where we came from. We walked all the way down from that area to here. And so, and then that building in the distance is one of the oldest private clubs called the Metropolitan Club. And it's a very nice club to be in. But what ends up happening is when people are there, you end up seeing people who are not so young. And so it's, as I said before, a lot of the private clubs are having a huge problem with finding young people to be members, because most young people say that they have other things to do instead of being members of a private club where people are just sitting around. Though it's nice to sit around, I think it's just that people have chosen a different way, a different lifestyle than the way their grandfathers might have had their lifestyle. And that makes it nice just to see everything differently. So the other building that we'll be seeing, this tall building in the distance, this is 9 West 57th Street. So this is the most expensive building for office rentals. It's owned by someone named Sheldon Solo, and he's known for being very litigious. And so it's a building that's a very nice building to be in. And even though he's known for liking to sue, people still prefer to rent because this building is like so centrally located and has such beautiful views of the city, and he knows that no one is going to be building around the building. So those views are going to be there forever. And he knows that, so he actually likes that. And but that's where people are willing to pay for that. And this park is right in front of one of the most famous hotels called the Plaza Hotel. And the Plaza Hotel is one of the most beautiful hotels in New York City, and it has a very interesting history. Now, it's been owned by quite a few people, and right now, well, for example, it was owned by Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump ended up selling it to a group of investors. They ended up turning it, they ended up selling that to someone else, who ended up converting it into condos and also a hotel, and also sold the retail space. And the current owner is a gentleman from India named Raj Roy, and his company is trying to sell it to someone else. The current bidder on this hotel is the Sultan of Brunei. However, that is getting mixed reviews as to if you should be able to buy it or not. Now, the reason why Mr. Roy has to sell the hotel is because he had sold bonds, and the courts in India are demanding that he pledge everything as collateral. But instead of pledging it as collateral, he wants to sell some of his holdings, and one of his holdings is the Plaza Hotel. But just beautiful on the outside, just a magnificent hotel. Even on the inside, it's beautiful, and it's been known for years to be one of the most beautiful hotels in New York City. And even owning the condos in that hotel are just wonderful. When they first turned it into condos, you had a lot of people complaining that the condos were overpriced, and there were a lot of lawsuits at first, as soon as it became public, and as soon as people bought it. Then people realized what a great bargain they had, and how the condos are now some of the most expensive condos in New York City. So you don't hear any more about any lawsuits, you know, in the area about the condos, because they're worth so much now. Of course, no one's going to complain about something being worth too much. They're just going to be complaining about something not being worth enough. But still, it was very nice having that for people, and it's one of the most prestigious. In fact, a number of famous people in the world own condos in that building and in the Plaza Hotel, and it's a very nice place to be, very centrally located. We'll take another longer view at it, and this is Central Park South. This is one of those streets that everyone has heard about, and it's very prestigious. And as you look in the distance, you'll see the Time Warner Building. That's Columbus Circle, 59th and Central Park West. And again, we'll take another look. That's looking south on Fifth Avenue. And that building there is the Crown Building that we're focusing on. That used to be owned by Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines. Now, when he had all his money, he bought it. And then when he left power from the Philippines, the U.S. government asked him the question, where did you get your money from to buy this building? Of course, he couldn't prove where he got his money from, so the U.S. government forced him to sell it. But you can see how beautiful everything is around here. Just wonderful seeing everything. And that's our little tour of Fifth Avenue. And as I mentioned, this is the Sherry Netherland. This is where, like, the top 3 floors here are a penthouse. And likewise, if you look at this other building, that's the Pierre Hotel, the tall one. Kirk Kerkorian, Warren Buffett, and quite a few other very wealthy people own homes in the Pierre Hotel. And a wonderful place to own your home. And great service. It's and the hotel itself that's in the building. There's condominiums in there, but there's also a hotel that's owned by an Indian group called the Taj Group out of Bombay, India. So, but it's great to be around here and walk down Fifth Avenue.